Hey, you guys, Merry Christmas. So, growing up, there's this kid that I knew. His name was Elijah. He was in all my classes in middle school, and he was quiet and he was super ridiculously smart. He played basketball, he always took the advanced math classes and all that kind of stuff. And he was just an all around nice guy. I sat by him in lots of our classes in school, and so I thought I knew him pretty well. He also lived in my neighborhood. So like I don't know, I thought I knew him pretty well, right? So then our sophomore year of high school, he missed an entire week of class. I didn't see him on the bus. I guess, I mean, I noticed that he was gone, but I didn't think a whole lot about it. I just thought it was sort of weird and maybe he was sick or something. But when he came back to class, the teacher started asking him all kinds of weird questions about like the weather and about llamas and about what he ate and all that kind of stuff. So I was like, hey, did you go on a trip? And he goes, yeah, I went to Peru. And I was like, dang, I wish my mom would take awesome vacations like that. But then this happened. I said, nice. So what'd you do there? He goes, oh, I didn't really sightsee much. I was in a competition the whole time. I was like, oh, well, that's cool. What kind of competition takes you to Peru? He goes, oh, well, it's not always a competition held in Peru. It's a different place every single year, but it's an international origami competition. I was like, what? Turns out my friend Elijah was an internationally known origami artist. Like, if it happened today, his YouTube channel would have easily had like 20 million subs. So, how is that even real? I had known this guy my entire life. And then I felt like I didn't even know him at all. Like, how did I miss that? Because here's the thing, you can know somebody and not really know them. And the same thing is true for you. You can hang out with people and still not have a ton of people who know the real you or who get you. For most of us, our friends are probably the people who get us the most. And some of you may say that you have a bestie who totally gets you. That's awesome. But it's probably not a lot more people than that bestie, is it? Here's a stat. I totally made it up, but it's a stat, and I think it's true. The majority of people don't feel like there's anyone who gets us 100%. And y'all, this is totally normal. But sometimes it would be nice if more people just understood us, wouldn't it? All of our quirks, all of our interests, all of our struggles, all of our fears. But instead, most of the time, we feel like nobody gets us. And you know who else feels that way? Literally everybody else. The truth is that nobody gets me or nobody knows the real me feeling is not easy. It's one of the reasons that this idea of personal in regards to Jesus matters so much. Because whether you know this or not, you are wired to be known. I talk about this all the time, and I know you guys who are with me often have heard me say that we are created to be in relationships, both with God and with other humans. We are literally wired to be known. You were made to have somebody who gets you, somebody who understands you and knows what your real world is like. And this, my friends, brings us back to Zacchaeus. Last week, we started talking about this encounter that Jesus had with a man named Zacchaeus. In the New Testament, there are eyewitness accounts from people who knew Jesus personally. Those are called the Gospels, right? There are four of them, and they all come from different perspectives. They didn't all share the same stories. Sometimes those writers of the Gospels were writing to different people, which affected which details that they included in their writings. So here's what I mean. The Gospel of Luke is the only gospel that tells the story of Zacchaeus. And there's a reason for that. Luke was writing to a mostly non Jewish audience. The first followers of Jesus were Jewish, so they kind of figured that everyone who followed Jesus would have been Jewish. But that's not the way Jesus operated. He was for anyone from any background, so it was natural for the not Jewish people to feel like they didn't quite fit in. So in Luke's gospel, there are a lot of stories about people who didn't feel like they fit in. It's easy to imagine that these are the people that Luke wrote about because these are the people that Luke was actually writing to. He wanted his readers to see how Jesus treated people like them. So Luke shares the story of Zacchaeus, who, like we learned last week, was on the outside of the group. He was a Jewish tax collector, which was really the most hated guy in society. He was considered a sellout and a traitor. No one liked him. He worked for the Roman government, but he was a Jew. Just no one liked him. But then Jesus came to town, and everyone is dying to see Jesus. They're lining up to see Jesus. And by this point, he was way famous, and people wanted to know things like, is he like the rumors say that he is? Is he really healing people and really performing miracles? Is he really challenging the powers that are in charge of things around here? Everyone wanted to see what Jesus was like, and Zacchaeus was no different. So he showed up. To get a better view of Jesus, Zacchaeus climbs a tree. He was a pretty short guy, so getting a higher view really helped. But also, I imagine that Zacchaeus wasn't really sure how Jesus would feel about a guy like him, a guy who collected taxes for the Romans and probably a little extra to keep for himself. Jesus looked out for the poor and for the mistreated people, and nobody was better at mistreating them or making them poor than Zacchaeus, the tax collector, right? So I imagine he probably was not looking to stand out, but then the craziest thing happens. Jesus looks up in the tree where Zacchaeus is sitting, and he calls him out, and he invites himself over to Zacchaeus' house for dinner. Luke tells it this way. This is from Luke chapter 19, verse 5. When Jesus reached the spot, he looked up and said to him, Zacchaeus, come down immediately. I must stay at your house today. We hear that and think, all right, that's a little bold. Cook me dinner. I'm coming over with no warning, right? But in the context of this culture, it was an honor to host someone for dinner. Having someone in your home and at your dinner table sent a message of friendship or of good relationship. So Zacchaeus was not sitting in that tree thinking that Jesus was rude for inviting himself over. He was most likely sitting in that tree thinking, I cannot believe that Jesus Christ himself would want to have dinner with me at all, much less at my house. And he announced it loud enough for everyone in the crowd to hear. So, in fact, Luke writes it this way. So Zacchaeus came down at once and welcomed Jesus gladly. So, why did Jesus invite himself over? Because Jesus cared about what Zacchaeus cared about. And even though it didn't seem like it on the outside, Zacchaeus cared about belonging. Zacchaeus cared about being accepted, about being seen, and about being known. And how do I know that? Because he was a human. And that's literally all we want. And we want it more when we feel like we don't belong anywhere. Zacchaeus lived life as an outsider. As a Jewish man, he didn't fit in with the Romans and the Roman government that he worked for. And he didn't fit in with his own Jewish neighbors because he taxed them on behalf of the Roman government. So, see, Zacchaeus was not just climbing a tree to see Jesus. He was climbing a tree to see if he mattered to Jesus and to see if Jesus knew what mattered to him. And don't miss this. It surprises everyone. People didn't expect a friendship to form between Jesus and the local outcast. They liked Jesus and wanted to be around him, and they didn't want to be around Zacchaeus. In fact, they all probably thought that they already knew everything they needed to know about Zacchaeus. As a tax collector, they knew exactly what he was like, and they did not want to be associated with him. But not Jesus. Jesus knew that just because Zacchaeus had the label of tax collector, it didn't tell the whole story about who he was. It turns out that Jesus knew Zacchaeus better than anyone around him did. Jesus understood Zacchaeus was just a person who wanted to belong, and Jesus went over to his place to show him that he did. If you've ever wondered what Jesus thinks about you, the story of Zacchaeus should be an encouragement. But maybe you've always felt like there were certain things that mattered to Jesus. For example, maybe you thought Jesus cared about how you read your Bible, but not your school grades. Maybe you thought that Jesus cared about your prayer life, but not your friendships. Maybe you thought that Jesus cares or worries about holy stuff, but not real life stuff. Or maybe your cussing habits, but not your anxiety. Or perhaps your obedience, but not your actual relationship with your dad. Or maybe your sexual purity, but not the dating relationships. Today, guys, today and every day, I want you to know that things that matter to you matter to him. The things that interest you interest him. He doesn't just know that you love basketball or K-pop or theater, but he gets why. He gets you personally. Think of it this way. It's personal because Jesus knows what matters to you. I don't know about you, but that was not the image of Jesus that I grew up with. That's not what I thought Jesus was like. The personal Jesus that surprised Zacchaeus and definitely shocked the people around Zacchaeus. That's not what I expected. Chances are, there are a lot of people around you every day, maybe even you, who would never guess that Jesus is so interested in them personally. So that's why this week I want to challenge you to try two ideas. One, talk to Jesus about what matters to you. Jesus cares about what you care about. So start there. Pray about it, share it with him, let him know about the things that you like. Let him know the things that you worry about. Tell him the things that bring you life and the things that drain you. Y'all, Jesus is never bored with hearing from you and about you because it's personal to him. Y'all, having relationships is literally why Jesus came to earth. Jesus came here to be Emmanuel, God with us, God in relationship with us. You matter to Jesus. Every one of you matters. Every one of you. The second thing, talk to other people about what interests them. When it came to Zacchaeus, it wasn't personal for the crowd he was in. They made assumptions about Zacchaeus, but they didn't really know him, nor did they get him. Jesus was the only one who knew that what really mattered to Zacchaeus was a sense of belonging. It's possible there are people you've made assumptions about too. It's actually kind of probable. I have. People who you think are one way because of what you believed about them, but you've never tried to make a personal relationship with them. Maybe this week you can make it personal. Maybe you can do that by being intentional and by discovering the things that other people like, maybe those people that you've never tried to like or tried to be friends with. Let go of the ideas that you have about other people and do for someone else what Jesus did for Zacchaeus. In his letter to the church in Philippi, the Apostle Paul wrote about this very idea. This is from Philippians chapter 2, verse 3 and 4. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of the others. I would also challenge you to commit that verse to memory. I think it's so profound and so special. I'm going to read it again. Rather, in humility, being humble, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of the others. Look out for the interests of others. This might mean that you ask your friends questions and then you actually take the time to listen to their answers. Have you ever said, "Hey, how are you?" to somebody and then walked away and not really cared to listen about how they actually were? Yikes. Maybe this means you play something that your little brother loves to play. Maybe you get tired of your little sibling saying, "Hey, do this with me," or "Hey, do this with me." Maybe they're just an annoying little sibling, but do you have any idea what you mean to them? Go out of your way to be kind, to play with them, to do something that shows them that they matter to you. Maybe you go watch your friend play their sport. Maybe you have no clue what's going on. I've gone to watch our basketball games for Union, y'all. I know nothing about basketball. Nothing. But I love you guys that play. So I get excited to watch you run around because I know that it's important to you. And I think that doing those kind of things show people that they matter. Make an effort to include a kid who's maybe a grade younger than you. Those kids always look up to y'all, you know that. Or maybe get to know someone who's simply different than you, somebody who wouldn't be your normal friend. You just never know. From there, in Paul's letter, he goes on to talk about the character of Jesus and what Jesus was like. Paul said, "Make Jesus the model," because that's exactly what Jesus was like. He was selfless. He looked out for the interests of others, and we should do the same thing. This is what makes us stand out as people who follow him. Everybody needs somebody who knows their name and who knows them personally, who gets them. But I want you to think about something this week. Do you know what matters to the people who know? Do you know what matters to the people you know, really? Have you taken the time to be personal enough to try and get them? When we take the time to make it personal with others, we are living like Jesus. Jesus was never satisfied by making a judgment about a person from far away. He got close. He took time and he never, ever let a label or assumption inform his opinion. He cared about what mattered to others because they mattered to him. It's personal because Jesus knows what matters to you. Now you have the chance to go and do the same for others. Share that love of Jesus, that love that our Savior came to earth to share with us. I hope y'all had a very Merry Christmas. I look forward to seeing you all soon. I hope you're staying safe and taking care of yourselves. I love you a lot. Bye.